So we need to talk about the latest developments happening in the Suno and Udio cases. We're going to go over Suno because we've got the full documentation for that. And we're not going over much of it because it's just the parts that have been updated. They have a proposed amended complaint, and basically what they're going to be doing is relying on the DMCA again. Relying on that horrible law to destroy fair use. We'll get into why, but this is about something that we should have won on. Because we went through this a few years ago with something called YouTube DL that was taken down from GitHub and then put back up again. I covered this when it happened. I want to go over it again just to review. But if you've already seen my coverage on it, or if you followed the story elsewhere, you can skip ahead. As always, there will be time codes in the description. So just skip ahead to where you want to continue from. But what we're talking about, this YouTube DL software, is a way of downloading videos from YouTube. And there are plenty of legitimate reasons why you want to do that. I do it so I can make reaction videos, which is fair use. Archivists want to do it. Journalists want to do it. A lot of journalists spoke out when YouTube DL was taken down. And they were talking about all the reasons they would need to be able to download a video. And the reason this happened in the first place is because the RIAA flipped out about it. Because they don't want people downloading music from YouTube. They want people to pay for the music they download or listen to it streaming over YouTube, but not download it to keep. And what they told was a pretty laughable lie. And I've got a video where I go over it in more detail, but this is what they call a rolling cipher. And they say that means it violates Section 1201 of the DMCA, which is bypassing a technological protection measure. So yeah, they say that they're bypassing YouTube's rolling cipher, which is not rolling and it's not a cipher. It's not encryption or anything like that. They just call it that because they're trying to make it a DMCA violation. And the thing you need to understand is that has nothing to do with infringement. Infringement is all about what you do with it. Are you using it for an infringing purpose, or are you using it for a fair use? Well, see, they're trying to cut that off of the knees, and we'll see them. They'll say that out loud. They're trying to cut fair use off of the knees and not even let it happen. So even if it's 100% fair use, according to the RIAA, it's still illegal. So let me read out 17 U.S.C. Section 1201A3B. A technological measure effectively controls access to a work if the measure, in the ordinary course of its operation, requires the application of information or a process or treatment with the authority of the copyright owner to gain access. That's what it says. It's basically meant so that they can put DRM in place and it's illegal to bypass it, because DRM doesn't work. I've got plenty of videos talking about that. So I just want to give you a quick timeline of 1201 and how it's been going through the courts. So let's start in 2000 with Universal v. Ramirez. And this is another one of those cases, like I talked about Universal v. Corley before, where they were trying to write a DVD player to work on Linux and they didn't like it, and so they shut it down. And this was, guess where? The Southern District of New York, the most corrupt district in the country next to the DC District Court. And guess which judge it was? Judge Lewis A. Kaplan. Man, that guy just keeps turning up like a bad penny, doesn't he? He ruled that a measure is effective even if it can be circumvented. The statute does not require it to be strong or unbreakable. It requires only that it effectively control access in the ordinary course of operation. But what does effectively mean? He didn't say. So basically, even if the lock is made of paper mache and everyone has a key, it still counts as a lock, and it's crazy. It's gonna get crazier. It's gonna get crazier. 2004, 321 Studios v. MGM, a company sold software that lets you make backups of your DVDs. That's not an infringement. Courts have said you get to do that, but this court said it was still a 1201 violation because CSS, as stupid as it was, as badly designed as it was still an effective TPM because ordinary consumers couldn't copy it without the software. And they said the same thing in 2009 in Real Networks v. DVD CCA. They made software called Real DVD. Again, you're backing up a DVD to your hard drive. And they said effectiveness is evaluated in the ordinary course of operation, not in light of particular methods of circumvention. In other words, you don't judge a lock by how well it locks the door. You just judge it by the existence of the door. It gets even more ridiculous in 2010 with MDY Industries v Blizzard, and this was that glider bot for World of Warcraft. And it worked by circumventing their anti-cheat system, and the court said that the anti-cheat system was a TPM under 1201A2, because even though it didn't decrypt anything, even though it didn't give you access to the game when you wouldn't have ordinarily had it, it bypassed the method that controlled access to the copyrighted portions of the game. So it doesn't even have to be encrypted. This was not encrypted. This wasn't encryption of any kind. All it has to do is keep ordinary users in the pathway. And if that's all it does, then just walking off the path means circumvention. And this is how they get you. You see, it's a catch-22. You can exercise fair use without authorization. Again, fair use is all about unauthorized access and when you can do it. But in order to exercise fair use, you need a copy of the content, which you can't get without authorization. You see how they cut it off? You see what they're doing? And that means fair use is gone, and with it, freedom of speech. One thing we should mention is 2017 Hatter v. Ashton in the Central District of California. There, the defense was granted a motion to dismiss and all the charges were dropped because 1201A1 is about circumventing methods that control access, not copying. That's what it's about. Congress didn't make it illegal to circumvent methods that prevent copying because that was already illegal. It's illegal to copy things for infringing purposes. This was about access, not copying, and that's going to be important. And for an example of one of the rare fair use cases with 1201, in 2020 you had Apple v. Corellium. This was an iOS virtualization product, and the court said that Apple didn't prove a 1201 violation because Corellium's use was transformative and research-oriented, so the use was fair, so 1201 didn't matter. We need more decisions like that. And that takes us to 2022, the big one they're relying on, Yout v. RIAA. So when that YouTube DL thing went on, Yout went ahead and kind of preemptively took out a court case, say, look, we just want the courts to say that what we're doing is legal. And so this is using one of the so-called stream rippers, and I'll get in a minute to exactly how they work and why this whole thing is so ridiculous. But the Federal District of Connecticut said that YouTube directs users to stream videos, and by not making a download option readily available on the player page, restrains users' ability to access and copy video files. Unleashing access to the downloadable audio or video files requires modifying the range sequence. And I'm going to show you, I'm not going to show you that. I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube for showing you how to hack it or anything, but I'm going to explain basically how it works. But before I do, I want to point out, this is not a merits-based decision. At no point did the court talk about any distinction between access control and copyright control. It just made this crazy little thing. It's like, yeah, it looks like it violates it to me, just because the judge was taking the RIAA's word for it. And so Yout is currently appealing to the Second Circuit, and that's kind of where we are now. All right, so let's talk about the rolling cipher for just a minute, and then we'll get into the court case here in Suno. The rolling cipher, what they call it, that supposedly protects you from downloading YouTube videos, it's not encryption, it's not DRM. The point of this isn't even controlling access, it's about streaming. So if you had to download the video before you watched it, it would take a long time. And so what YouTube does, this is how streaming works, you just download it in chunks. I'm not sure what the size of the chunks are. Say 5 seconds. It downloads the next 5 seconds and the next 5 seconds until it's got 30 seconds or a minute or however much it needs. And then as you play it, as the old segments get played, they get discarded and it loads on the next new segment that's a minute off or however much it's going to queue up. And it just plays through the video that way. And that's also how it's able to change quality. Like if all of a sudden there's congestion, it drops down to 480p. It clears up, you jump back up to 1080p. Because those chunks it can get can be different resolutions. So that's what this is. There's a link in the background that's never actually shown to you on the web page, but that's how they get the video. And so there's this range variable for saying, okay, this is the portion of the video I want. But all you have to do in the browser is run the inspector, and if you can easily find the URL, that gets the video itself. And so if you were to copy that and paste it into the address bar, it would download that chunk of the video. Well, all you have to do is delete that range variable. And all you're doing is putting a URL in the bar and sending it to YouTube, and it'll give you the whole thing. So it gives you the URL, and you are making just an ordinary HTTP GET request. And the server just sends back the file. You're like, hey, YouTube, will you send me this? YouTube says, sure, here you go. Here's the whole thing. Then they go, circumvention. There's nothing being bypassed here. There's no lock. You're just walking through an open door with a big welcome mat and people who greet you and say, hi, welcome. So there is no access control here. There's a tiny bit of papier-mâché copy control, but no access control. And remember, 1201 is about access control, not copy control. So this is so Kafkaesque. It's like you don't know going in what kind of minor little speed bump you'll have to go over to get something that they're going to call a circumvention. You go over a speed bump and they act like you busted through a gate. That's what this is. So anything you can literally fetch just by copying and pasting a URL into the address bar is now circumvention under 1201. Do you see how ridiculous it is? Do you see how Kafkaesque it is? Do you see how bad it is? And that takes us up to today and the RIAA's amended case against Suno. What is all this? From the invention of the phonograph record, the recording music industry has been the forefront of technological advancement. Oh, shut up. No, you haven't. You've been obstructing it. They do all this sort of stuff. This is marketing copy. There's so much of that. But they tried to stop radio. They tried to stop tapes. They tried to stop CDs. They tried to stop MP3s. Every time there was a new technology, they tried to stop it. But this isn't about that. This is about the changes. And the first major change you see is on page 3. You see a bunch of others like you see here. They change model to models. And so you're making it plural because Suno's released a couple of models since then. But we're talking about this new section here, which says, to make matters worse, Suno obtained those copies in the first instance by unlawfully stream ripping from the popular streaming platform YouTube and circumventing the technological measures designed specifically to prevent such unauthorized copying. That's really debatable. It really seems like it was set up to do the streaming thing that I talked about, so that it just gives you a range of the video and not the whole thing. Take out the range variable, you get the whole thing. And they say this again over on page 12. By the way, this is one of the cases where page 12 of the complaint is page 12 of the PDF, so that's okay. Just type in 12. We don't have to deal with two different page numbers on this. Suno, moreover, obtained those copies by unlawfully stream ripping them from YouTube and circumventing technology specifically designed to prevent such unauthorized copying. And a similar thing, bottom of 16, Suno acquired many, if not all, of the copyrighted sound recordings by illicitly downloading them from YouTube using a notorious method of music piracy known as stream ripping. Do you hear the table pounding? The law is against you, the facts are against you, pound the table. They're pounding the table there. But no court in the United States has done any kind of merits-based analysis and concluded that this is a violation. None. There's not a single one. They're just pretending that it did, and hoping the judge plays ball as the judge in Yount did. All right, so let's start up at the top of page 18. Specifically, YouTube employs a rolling cipher encryption measure. I can't say that with a straight face. This is not encryption. It's not encryption at all. To control access to such content, again, they're trying to say it controls access, not copying. Preventing external sites or services from directly downloading protected media files. YouTube maintains two different URLs for any given video. The page URL, visible to the user, up the top in the address bar, is for the web page where the video playback occurs. The file URL, not visible to the user, well, not visible unless you hit the inspect button, in which case it's right there, is for the video file itself that is played within the page. The file URL is encrypted using a complex and periodically changing algorithm, the rolling cipher. No, it's a number. It's an incrementing In simple terms, the rolling cipher effectively controls a user's access, no it doesn't, to copies of copyrighted works uploaded to the platform, and prevents an ordinary user from creating a permanent, unrestricted download of a sound recording made available on YouTube only for streaming and restricted downloading. Who's the ordinary user, though? I guess they mean the ordinary user that has trouble figuring out how to turn their computer off and on again. So, yeah, if it's about what grandma can do, maybe. But you see how ridiculous it's gotten? Even though YouTube periodically revises the rolling cipher by design, there are illicit tools and services that circumvent the encryption. No encryption. Download audio-visual content available on YouTube and create copies that can be downloaded and further distributed by users without restriction. Again, no court anywhere in the US has said these are illicit in any sort of merits-based decision. And so the one they mention is UMG v. Kurbanov. And this was a case that was about jurisdiction. It wasn't about circumvention. Tofig Kurbanov was a Russian national who ran stream-ripping websites. You'd give it a YouTube URL, it would spit back the link it gives you to download it. And then you would just download it. So this question was jurisdiction. Since he was Russian, could he be hauled into a U.S. court? The district court said no, but the Fourth Circuit reversed. They dragged him in. Because once you accept this completely absurd premise that this rolling cipher is a TPM, then they get to bring you in. He was made to pay $83 million, even though, again, there was no technical ruling as to the rolling cipher. They found that just so much as copying the link was enough to find infringement. Again, a link is just a GET request. Hey, web page, can I have this? Sure, here you go. No encryption, no password, no hacking going on at all. Just a parameter in the address bar. So you're not even safe if you're in a foreign country, remember that. And there was no finding that this was illicit. Again, they were just taking the RIAA's word on that. But none of this is cybersecurity. No, I know what this is. You know that meme where it's a picture of a gate and the gate just goes across this little small paved lane, but then there are all the tire tracks going around it on both sides? Yeah, that's what the rolling cipher is. All right, let's see, where was I? Okay, nevertheless, Suno utilized such tools, YTDL and YTDLP, those are forks, to circumvent YouTube encryption and scrape copyrighted recordings from YouTube. Indeed, this unlawful step, again, these have not been found to be unlawful, is the key means by which Suno engages in its first infringing act of reproducing plaintiffs' sound recordings. Suno's unauthorized extraction, copying, and storage. And again, remember, all fair use is unauthorized. This is about what you do with them, not how you get them. It's fair use, not fair getting. I don't know how many times I have to point that out. It was accomplished by Suno's unlawful circumvention of YouTube's rolling cipher and any other technological measures YouTube may have implemented to prevent the downloading and copying of licensed content. You realize you're criminalizing a GET request, right? You make the GET request. Server, please give that to me. Server says, okay, here you go. What's being circumvented? Just because you have to look into the code to get that other URL? Suno's actions constitute a breach of the Copyright Act's anti-circumvention provisions, which state, among other things, that no person shall circumvent a technological measure that effectively controls access to a work protected under this title. Yeah, but is it effective? Really? Oh yeah, let's go forward to page 29, saying the quiet part out loud. And in any event, fair use is not a defense for breach of the Copyright Act's anti-circumvention provisions. So even what they've been saying online, even the myth they hit you over the head with, no, fair use is just a defense, fair use is just a defense. Well, here, it's no longer even a defense, which means it doesn't exist. And we should talk about the case they cite, Green v. United States Department of Justice, because this is really important for the security of you and me, keeping us protected from hackers. And this was a big threat to that. Regular viewers have heard me talk about Matthew Green before. He's a security researcher, and he challenged Section 1201 because it criminalized legitimate cybersecurity research. It was just like, hey, all we want to do is look at these and make sure there are no major security holes, because everyone's watching streaming video. Everyone's got all of these things we're doing on all of our devices. If there are security holes in there, we could be in trouble. So we need to study those. And the DC District Court, another one of those where just over and over and over again, we've shown how hideously corrupt they are. They dismissed all of his claims because they're not ripe. Yeah, that's another little bit they use to throw out cases they don't want to decide, like with Standing and some others. But that's all it was. It was thrown out for not being ripe, and here the RIAA is using it as precedent. Because, just like Lewis Kaplan said in Universal v. Corley, reporting vulnerabilities isn't really free speech. That's another Catch-22. You can tell everyone about a vulnerability, but you can't actually find the vulnerability to tell them about it. If you don't find out about the vulnerability, no one knows it exists. If you knew it existed, you could tell them, but you can't find them because of 1201. So it's illegal just to study these things. It's illegal to find out how vulnerable you and I are because of these things. You got these weak-ass TPMs that are being given full legal force. The green precedent, it's not even a precedent, but it's being used as a precedent to say that you can't even talk about them, and then Kurbanoff holds you to massive liability if you do. Is that straight out of Kafka or what? All right, so let's bring it home by skipping over to page 36. By stream ripping audio files from YouTube, Suno circumvented technological measures implemented by YouTube that effectively control access to copyrighted works in violation of Section 1201A. Specifically, Suno employed code to access, extract, copy, and download audio files without the authorization of plaintiffs or YouTube, and in violation of YouTube's terms of service. Again, fair use is all about what you can do without authorization. But 1201 cuts that off at the knees, because they themselves are claiming fair use is not a defense. Suno's circumvention of YouTube's technological measures has facilitated Suno's ongoing and mass-scale infringement of plaintiffs' copyrights through its unauthorized use, and it was and is willful, intentional, and purposeful in disregard of the rights of plaintiffs. Please, Your Honor, please make it illegal to copy and paste a URL. Copyright is supposed to be a temporary monopoly on content. This interpretation creates a monopoly on workflow. In fact, it would even make it illegal to download something that is Creative Commons or public domain. Like you download my videos, they're Creative Commons. You can download them, except you can't. And this is criminalizing tools that just automate some of that behavior just because you didn't go through the approved UX. They didn't give you a download button. So even though they gave you the link, it's illegal to use the link because they didn't give you a download button. That's basically it. Or if, an ebook gets stored in plain text, but it's in a sandbox, and you just say, oh, I'm going to copy it out of the sandbox. Circumvention! Or it gets put down to your browser's cache. You go in the temporary files. Hey, it's in the temporary files of my own computer. I'm going to copy it out of there to my regular computer. Circumvention! Any of those are circumvention under their interpretation. So until Congress amends Section 1201, or there's an appellate court with enough sanity to put a stop to this, to say a protection that's so trivial doesn't count as an effective one, until that happens, this absurdity is going to stand. If it's pretending to be a lock, it's a lock. It's a make-believe lock, but it's still a lock. You know what? I take back what I've been saying. I take it back. It's not Kafkaesque, it's Pythonesque. Because you could easily see this becoming a Monty Python sketch. How would that go? Your Honor, the accused picked a lock on a door. My client did no such thing. There was no lock, and there was no door. There was a giant sheet of cardboard with a lock drawn on it in crayon. My client sneezed and it fell over. You see? You heard it! He admits it! Circumvention! 1201 violation! Guilty! That's the DMCA. It doesn't even need to do anything. It just needs to exist and look shiny. And all you have to do is look at it funny in a way that the website never intended, and you're a circumventer. Do you see the problem? Do you see how this is going to spell the end of fair use and free speech in this country? I hope you do. I hope you see how ridiculous it is, because we need to get this information out there, so please share it. Share this video everywhere. Share this information everywhere. Get it in as part of the public conversation, because people need to know about that. And of course, comments for the Comic God, shares for the Share Throne, like, subscribe, the bell. All the stuff that keeps me going, including donate.bogosity.tv, one-time donations, PayPal, Venmo, cryptocurrency, or regular support with Patreon, Subscribestar, or Discord. Thank you so very much for watching. Until next time, stay strong and be free.